Good evening. Welcome to WooTube. My name's Baran Woo, and today I'm going to be talking about a few things, but particularly Summer Showdown. I've also have got my camera in a weird position today, and I don't quite know where to put my head because of it. How's everyone doing? Audacious title indeed, Zero of Maxima, but will become very clear as to why. Um, firstly, though, exciting stuff today. If you exciting stuff, if you like reading, and luckily I do. No Signal Games released an update to the organized play policies, which used to be, well, it always has been, and it always kind of will be quite a chunky document with a lot of words in it. But it particularly used to be a very hard document to pass because it was just so many words, and it was like a big wall of text. Um, and my eyes started to glaze over when I used to have to go through it. And they released this update today, and it is so much better. Um, just the sort of the layout to it, the way it's been put together. No, I don't want an AI assistant. Um, yeah, this just looks fantastic. It's I feel like it's laid out better. It might be laid out like exactly the same, but I can find the stuff in it which I want to find easier. Um, so maybe it's had a bit of a jig around. They've got these really nice like blue boxes which give commentary on various things. So they'll explain the actual like mechanisms, and then there'll often be just a little box underneath it saying, giving examples or um, like like recommendations. Like, this is the set thing. Rounds should be between 40 to 45 minutes, and then it gives a nice little recommendation that 40 minutes is probably the correct amount of time. Um and even just the like splash of color every now and then, we've got pictures way, which just breaks it up nicely. Like, after you've been like looking at a whole load of text, you get a little picture, and it just eases your eyes and lets you know that you're getting to the end of like a section. And it's small things like that just makes it fantastic. This is so much like, I genuinely went through and I read a whole load of this. Um, there are some significant additions, but I am not necessarily the best person to say exactly what has changed, because I don't want to say that something's changed. I don't want to get into rules because I'm not the best at rules. I'm very vibes based when it comes to rules. But there's some nice kind of uh they go into sort of details of proxies and alt arts a bit more clearly in terms of what can and can't be done. Um and obviously all of this is only ever at a competitive level. So if you're running a casual event, like a casual tournament kit, or an event which isn't a sort of NSG sanctioned event, then obviously you can stray outside these rules. But this really kind of clearly lays out what is expected um, at competitive level events and NSG um, sanctioned events. Um, there was, I can't remember where I saw it, but I think it's probably in the bit at the end when I was looking at alt arts. It's got a really nice explanation of kind of how. Okay, we're going far down here somewhere in the appendix here. We've got like examples of how um cards should be laid out. Which I think is just really nice, so that you've got something to compare it to if you're saying, um does this alt art work? You can just look at it's much easier to like look at this and go, okay, this is where all the details should be, for instance. Um, there is a change log at the top as well, up here somewhere. Whoop. Um, which kind of goes through, and I'm sure this will be updated as it goes along. Um, I guess that's got all the current changes in it. This is all the changes from the last one. Um, and it's got a really nice section on like like clearing, repairing board states. This whole section, I feel, has been given like a pretty big kind of makeover. Maybe it's just that it's easier to read now because the document's prettier, and like that might be significant enough. Um, but it actually like got a really nice way of going very clearly into like what you should do in the case of illegal actions, um, what you should do to clear up a board state, how you should go about that. It just means that if you're in a situation, you can always just fall back to the rules, uh, to the document, rather than being having to be like the bad guy. It's like, I'm not the bad guy as a judge. I'm just trying to make everything run smoothly. The rules team is the bad guy. Go and moan at them. I mean, don't, but that's what it allows you to do. It You've got it quite clearly in black and white if you really need to do it, and will be really a massive help to particularly people who are TOing for the first time if they need to. There is some additional stuff. I can't remember which part it was in, but they have added a section about like slow play as well, which is here. Um, is it here? No, there was definitely, yeah. Here we go. So they've now actually given like, you'll notice that this is in blue, so it's not like a rule. This is more like what should be considered when talking about slow play, because you can't have a hard and fast time for anything in Netrunner, because there's board states which are very simple and shouldn't require any thought, and there's board states which are super complex, and both the players might need to think after like each action. And obviously like they get tend to get more and more into the late game, where board states become very sort of tricky, and multiple things are going on. But they have given like a suggestion of how long turns should take, which I think is quite nice. So they've got like generally turns should not take more than 90 seconds to complete, but extended thought time is expected at pivotal moments of the game. Judges should only enforce slow play for repeated offences of greater than 90 seconds per turn. So now we know that we're like, okay, you can't, you've got something to work with as a judge if someone calls you over and says, could you just check for slow play? Um, and then they've also got this repeated stretches of 30 to 40 seconds between actions is also a form of slow play. So we've got another kind of measuring stick there. And it also mentions the board state above, so judges should give players allowance for complex board states, but static board states with little change between turns should not warrant long pauses before committal actions are taken. So I like this. I really like the fact that this isn't like in the strict rules text. This is like more suggestive. It gives us something to work off. Sometimes you're playing CI and need 15 to 20 minute think, yeah, but then you win. Like, is the big difference, right? Then if you're CI and you're thinking for like 15 minutes and doing all the maths, the idea is that then you win. So it's kind of okay. Um, so anyway, I this is lovely. This is absolutely fantastic. Massive shout out to um the Null Signal Games crew. I don't know. I assume this was a bit of a team effort, but if it um, was it like specifically, was it Craw that like put this like took this on, or because I know like I think Ruben and Donald have been doing stuff with the rules team. So I'm not totally sure if this was one person or if it was a team effort, but uh, absolute sort of shout out to you for doing this, because this is much easier. I like it a lot. Um, Craw did the visual updates. Well, I think they're what's really standing out to me, just because I can look at this document and not like my eyes don't roll into the back of my head anymore. So it was like well written before. You could follow it, but you were just staring at a page of text, and that was tricky. Awesome. Well, thank you whole team for the text, and thank you Craw for um, making it easier on the eyes. So next up, we can talk about World's Showdown. So this was Man in the Moon's online tournament, which was run on the weekend. Really good turnout. Like huge respect to Abraham for running these events. He's getting like incredible turnouts, like really big, like close to 100 people for most of these tournaments. Um, which means that there's a really good field. You get to play a lot of net runner with like a lot of people. Um, Obviously, this is like a couple of weeks before Worlds, so this is not people bringing their, or some of them. Some people might be practicing their Worlds brews. Some people might be like playing other stuff to figure out the meta, so that because they've maybe got something a bit spicy up their sleeve. Um, but certainly, I think if you're like playing a known deck, then you are probably bringing it to this tournament to practice. Um, I am go away bot. How do I get rid of bots? Add to block list. There we go. Oh, it's easier than I thought. So I played in this. I played in this mainly because I wanted to play my Arasana deck competitively. This was my like literally my main reason for doing it. I didn't think I was going to do very well. Um, I just wanted to get as many get competitive games in with um with my Arasana, which we'll talk about in 2 seconds, because I'm not playing at UK Nats. I'll be doing the stream. Um, I'm going to be at regionals next weekend in the north, last of the regionals. Quick quick skip to the regionals page, which is here. At Patriot Games, I think there are 9 tickets left. So if you want to get a ticket, I'm pretty sure that's right. There's about 43 people already bought tickets. It's going to be a really good event. It's going to be the last of regionals, last time to get this beautiful playmat, which you see on the screen here, and some really cool alt arts made by Brindlemold. Um, so come along if you haven't already got a ticket. If you can, that would be it would be great to see you all. Now I need to go back to this one. Yeah, there we go. So I wanted to play Arasana. So I took my Arasana deck and I took um, a janky Corp deck, which did better than I expected. And we'll talk about them in a second. But if you want to watch some videos the of the Summer Showdown, um, Axu was running the whole stream for both days. It was a 2-day event, and you can find here the stream. It's in about 4 parts because it's pretty long, but that means that you can kind of go through a part at a time. There's some incredible games on here. I know Axu was had a recommendation. I think it was like game 2 or game 3 on the first day was like one of his top recommendations. I'll maybe get him to confirm that later. There was one in particular he really liked. I think it was with Wild. Um, but he's got some really great commentators on as well. Andre's on doing co-commentary. He's got Soccer on in the top cut. Obviously, Abraham, Man in the Moon himself, drops in. Jai is commentating at points. Um, I was kind of tuning in and out between games, and it was fantastic. Wild is a great player, and I actually played him turn one, and he was the only person to beat my Arasana in the entire tournament, and it was still a very close game. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Hi David, and hi Turtok, and thank you very much. I was very pleased with how I did. So you can watch it here. You will find the link for Axu's channel, or at least that, um, on in the show notes. Oh, and Wild's in chat. Yeah, hey. I maybe you got lucky. I think it was certainly very close. I think we both worked out. I was maybe I think I was 2 credits short of landing the deep dive in the last turn, but whether I'd have still had the click. I think I needed like 4 more credits than I had to be able to deep dive. Yeah, I think I need that's why I needed the 4 credits, because then I could have installed the Pikachu as well. So even with the Nisei counter, I think I could have got off a deep dive. I'll have to have a look. I've got everything there. I've got it all recorded. We're actually going to watch some of the videos today, but ironically, that's probably one of the ones that we're not going to watch, because it was the only game which went to time. So it's like it actually takes up like quite a long time. But I will put that video up when I've got some time to throw down some full commentary on it, because it was a very good game. I know, like, I slightly beat myself up because I know there was a couple of misplays. Hey, Augustus. Um, yeah, catch a bit before flying back. Oh, Augustus in Italy at the moment, playing at Italian Nats. Uh, I did you make? I can't remember if you did make. I think you did make the top cut and then got knocked out by council. Is that correct? I can't remember. It was only like it was a top cut of 4, right? I think you made the top cut and got knocked out by council, but I might be incorrect. But congratulations either way. Um, yeah, Italian nationals I couldn't really keep up with because I had my head doing other things. Also, if you want to watch some of the games from the World Showdown, Cody Encoder, who came in second, and handed my ass to me like twice in the day, has got pretty much all. I think his entire every game, on in up on his channel. He was doing commentary at the time. I was planning on doing commentary at the time, and in the end, I had to kind of be semi-parenting whilst playing, which was interesting at times. So I just took videos, but couldn't do commentary. But you can watch all of Cody's games. We played twice. He beat me twice, um, and the first one was an absolute drubbing. And the second one was on stream, so I'm sure that some people caught that. Hello, Cactus Glab. Nice with some background netrunner whilst leaving up retrieval run decks for tomorrow. Sounds like very, very fun. Cactus Glab, I played a janky corp deck at Summer Showdown. I hope you approve. You can also find the link for Cody's channel, or at least this video, um in the show notes as well. Should already be there. It's encoder-netrunner. Cody, if you don't know, is the person who set up the beans system as well, and he's a very, very good player. And he went undefeated. No, one of his decks was like undefeated. He went king. He was top of Swiss. Um, with this undefeated near Earth hub and a 419, which only dropped a single game. Um, Completely iceless near Earth hub. So if I'd have been playing against him, I on that side, we actually rolled the other side both times. I think I'd have been destroyed. Right. So videos are there. Let's talk about some decks. So this is the deck which I was most interested in playing. This is the reason that I was wanting to play it. It's a twist on my flippy shit deck, which I played at Aldershot. and um, I I'm looking forward to some spicy write-ups from Italy, very much, Augustus. So in Older Shot, I was playing a slightly different version with a similar idea. It had buzzsaw and cleaver and a turbine as a kind of late game rig. It had um, conduit as a win con, and it was on like 2 ASOPs pawn shops and 3 environmental testing. And I worked out a couple of things from playing that deck. It was that I didn't really like the conduit as a win con in the deck because it was quite hard to tutor. Like, you didn't really want to tutor it. It's quite expensive to install, and it wasn't really a deck but wanted to hammer R&D and like build up conduit counters. Um, the environmental testings were absolutely buck wild in the deck, but you do not really want one in your opening hand. They're only sort of super good once you've got like a maybe a UAV down, if so you can install it for like free or for 1 credit. Or you've already got some ASOPs ticking up, or you've already got like a lily pad or a Q loop down, just basically so that you can like speed it up. So I cut environmental testing and I added a third ASOPs because although when I originally made this deck it wasn't an ASOPs deck, it works so much better if you just have an ASOPs. So it became an ASOPs deck. Does work without it, but either way. I got rid of Cleaver and Buzzsaw. I found them expensive to install, and I wanted this kind of rig where I did not mind about selling like the entire rig to ASOPs if I wanted to. I could like pull stuff in off Prognostic Q Loop, and I'd always be able to install it because it only ever costs 1 or 2 credits. So the entire program suite here, there's 18 programs, and only one of them costs more than 2 credits, and that's Unity. Everything else is either 0, 1, or 2. So you can Prognostic Q Loop like blind most of the time, and you'll hit something, and you'll be able to install it, and you'll get value off that, assuming you've got a little bit of your rig down. Because you're either like installing it for free because of DZMZ, you're getting a draw because of Lilypad, maybe you're installing it with UAV counters, and if you've got an environmental testing down, then it's like bonkers. So the Breaker Suite became 2 Eco. It was already 2 Eco. I'm standing by like 2 Eco is a perfectly cromulent breaker solution in Arasana. You don't need like anything else. Great. 2 Propeller instead of a cleaver. Um, so we can just find one really like we can almost always draw one. We don't mind if we have to like get one using a muse because we use it a bit and then we sell it and then we get it back out. Very cheap to install, deals with Bran like at least one time really well, etc. And in a single Unity, um, with the idea that we've also got Slap Vandal and we've got Thessalem, so we can deal with other like code gates. We can deal with big code gates that relatively well, and we can deal with like code gates where we just need to break one sub. We can get through them with Slap Vandal if we need to. And then um, a lot of the rest of this is similar. We're still on a compilation. The compilation came out for a bit. Then I realized that I actually really liked the compilation, so it went back in. Obviously, we've got free Coalescence, free Muse. You'll notice no SMC. SMC came out. Um, it's now like so much of a like reliant on Trojans that we're playing Muse. We don't like SMC is just a card which we don't need most of the time, and so we can cut it because card slots are it's so dense. Like trying to keep this down to 45 ended up becoming basically impossible. So I went to 46. But Muse can get all of our important things, including this. We're playing Monkey Wrench. Um, this has been the card which most people have been most surprised by. Whether the deck even needs it is something or other, but it's actually been just the right thing for me for the deck. The problem with Propeller is that you can eventually get into this position where you might get locked out by 1 strength barriers. If they've just got like a bunch of Tattoo Bolas or a bunch of pings, the last thing you want to do is not be able to break them because you've run out of Propeller counters. Monkey Wrench like gives you just enough strength to do that, and you don't have to host it on the tattoo bowler, so it's not going to get like lost, for instance. Um, you can host it on a brand so that you can get through a brand twice with a fresh propeller, same as tattoo bowler. In fact, you only need to use one counter if the tattoo bowler, if sorry, same as a boto, but you only need to use one counter if the boto is at like not a threat yet. Um, and more importantly, this is half as half the price to install, like because Turbine costs 4, this costs 2, and obviously like we're comparing this to Turbine because that's what it is. Um, and we can pull it with a Muse, which we never want to do that with Turbine. That's what I found out about the other deck. It's like you never want to install a Muse to install a Turbine. That's like a very, very bad play most of the time. We can return it to hand with UAV. We can stick it out with Arasana. Um, and it's cheaper to get like if we see it off a prognostic Q loop, for instance. So it's actually better than Turbine in this deck, and I stand by that. Yeah. Oh, and then the win con change. As I said, I didn't really like the conduit, so we're on 2 deep dives and a copy of Pikachu. Again, we've got like more Trojans because Pikachu takes a nice Trojan spot, and deep dive has proven to be a much more successful like I'm gonna win this game now rather than I'm gonna install a conduit and maybe try and run like R&D 2 or 3 times. Like it's not so definite. Like by the time you're firing off a deep dive, you should be hitting an agenda with it. And it's also why I put Copulation back in the deck, because the one way you don't win off a deep dive is if all the agendas are in HQ. So having a bit of HQ pressure is really, really good. I love this deck. I think it's so fun. The Monkey Wrench you can swap out for something else if you want to. You can play something sensible like a Miss Bones, or you can play a Wheels so that you've got like other options for the deep dive. Click. You can put in Clot if you're worried about fast advance, because this deck can pull a Clot out of its ass at any opportunity. It's very good at pulling Clot because you can prognostic it out, you can prognostic a Muse to get it out, you can simul chip it out. It's just nuts. And yeah, but like Miss Bones would be absolutely fine. I Cataloger's a nice option, Game of Droids. I actually considered Cataloger because you can install it off the prognostic Q loop. Um, I probably went too much into the weeds when I was considering it, because I was like, well, let's play Cataloger and then let's play Flux Capacitor so that we can have an eternal Cataloger. And that was 2 card slots and the Flux wasn't doing much. And I probably should have just played 2 Cataloger. And then importantly, this plays a copy of DJ Fenris, which wasn't in the original version of the deck. And I originally put DJ Fenris in here because I was like, right, I'll play 2 deep dives and a DJ Fenris. That's a 3rd deep dive if I need it. I don't think I'm ever going to need it. A 3rd deep dive, like you really shouldn't. But more importantly, DJ Fenris is very, very rarely a Steve call in this particular deck. I have played a lot of games with this deck now, and 70% of the time, maybe not 70%, but 60% of the time, and very much in certain matchups, you almost always DJ Fenris for Quetzal. Because this then means that you can retain your propeller counters for like things that you need it for. If you're just running into like basically like decks, like especially ones with lots of tattoo bowlers, because you can't put a slap vandal on a tattoo bowler unless you put a hush on it as well, and it's really, really pain in the ass. Whereas DJ Quetzal, you can just like walk through the tattoo bowler, and yeah, it would be really cheap to do it with something else, but like then you'd have to have this like big expensive install, whereas I like to just have the propellers, but I also don't want them to run out. Turtok, I wouldn't be surprised if Hannah and doing a propeller pressure spike split is correct to survive both Glacier and Asset Span. Very possibly. Um, I've actually I haven't lost. I've lost very few games with like this version of the deck at all, and a lot of them I've played against like BTL Glacier with triple advanced Pheroses, log jams, you name it. Um, DJ Fenris is a free cost factor versus Cleaver. Yeah, but DJ Fenris as a free cost factor, which gets through a like 7 strength tree line for nothing, is a big difference to Cleaver getting through a 7 strength tree line, for example. Um, that's where it's like quite a lot different. Um, so yeah, so in like the BTL matchups, DJ Fenris is always DJ Quetzal, just absolutely always. Um, and then in other matchups, probably like if you are against purple, then quite often it's gonna be DJ Sable because you really need a lot of clicks if you're going to like deep dive and steal Ikawas, for instance. So like that becomes more often. Against like damage decks, if you're playing against PE, then the minute you draw a DJ Fenris, you slap it down as a Steve, and then you're generally fine. Um, this deck deals with PE pretty well. Like Lily Pad turns out to be an incredible thing if you're playing against PE when you can install stuff on the corpse turn and suddenly draw and they think they've got a kill and they don't. So anyway, this deck I think is nuts. I absolutely love playing it. I don't necessarily suggest that anyone else does. Um, a few people have tried this. Good Arizona players have tried this deck, and some of them have not gelled with it at all. Now, saying that, um, I did notice, or someone pointed out to me today actually, that in Polish nationals, I want to say, the winner was playing a very, very close version to, here we go, Minstrel. Um, Evening Axu, I knew you'd mention the camera angle. It is a funky angle. It's actually on my mic stand tonight, so it's kind of at a wonk. Um, but Minstrel actually took this list, which is very close to the original Flippy Shit list, and came first at Polish Nationals, which is awesome. Like, great to see it out there, and kind of does it validates to me that it's not just me. Um, taking sticks from MySpace, damn right. Speaking of Axu, um, actually, do you have any recommendations for new LED displays? I'm thinking 7 segments, myself. Um, this is possibly Axu's greatest shit posting work, and like that's really saying something for someone I would call a professional shit poster. Um, Even more importantly, by the law of Netrunner, Andre has to play this on Thursday, so I might be tuning in live for that. Dutch angle. Nice. Okay, so that's Arasana. This is the Corp deck, which I took, um, which definitely caught a few people offhand. I was playing, um, I was playing, I played a version of this on stream a while back. I think when we had the King on, we kind of built this. Originally, it was like a deck which played free riot suppression, as a way of I'm gonna score a salvo testing next turn, and you're not gonna be able to stop me. Um, I bet he wasn't. I bet Andre was not happy when he heard it. And it kind of did its thing, but Brandon was kind enough to point out that the deck was gonna just be too poor, and so I took a ton of the like jank out and just put in money. Like in the end, I was like, hey, you know what I can play? Like which I haven't played in ASA for a long time. I was like, I'll just play free hedge funds. Like I haven't put hedge funds into ASA for donkey's years. And yeah, I obviously got full inspiration from the fact that Axu had got deck list of the week with something doing salvo testings. But this is Salvation Asa because it's a combination of salvo and bifurcation. Um, and it's what you'd call the true meme deck because its plan is, or part one of the plan is score a 5-3. um, But once you do that, if you score the 5-3, you have kind of won the game. It's a bit like the I guess it's a bit like the Asmari thing, where it's like I'm gonna score one agenda and then I'm gonna win the game. But you still have to then do stuff after you've scored the agenda, unfortunately. Um, so yeah, so we score this salvo testing, and then all of our agendas do one core damage, and we then have ways of fast advancing out everything at that point. All of the ontos are free twos. Um, the Elvegars we can obviously just score from hand, put the runner on 2 core damage. Um, the ontologicals come thick and fast after that. But we can also like Asa a Hollow Man and one of the free twos down, so either one of the Ontos at this point or a Luminal, and score that out using the Hollow Man and the Asa trigger. Um, yeah, you got to not lose to win the game. That's a big thing, and this deck it lost. It lost to Cody's 4-9 twice in quite horrific circumstances. And it lost to Santa's Arasana with some of the worst play which I think I've done at a competitive level. It was in the semi-finals, and I just balked the game in like quite a considerable way. And we might watch that video later. We might get to that because I really like messed that one up pretty badly. So this is the deck. It's playing like Tatibola because that's like good money and can get us Asa triggers, unless we're playing against 419, in which case it's really bad. It's playing a single Thimble Rig, which I wished was a second Mavirus for most of the game, most of the day. And then just like a ton of money in terms of like Nico, Fully Op, Hedge Fund, Rashidas. It's got a single working prototype, which is actually pretty clutch in quite a few games. Really liked this. And then the the plan is that you're gonna kind of rush to get a either a salvo testing and a Hollow Man in a server, or just a salvo testing double advanced and enough ice or upgrade managarms, etc., to keep runner out. Um, a, a nice cheesy way it's got of doing it is if they happen to trash something, then you can riot suppression them and then install a salvo testing and a Hollow Man behind an MIC. And they've probably taken the like I'm gonna lose clicks next turn, and then you're like totally safe to score out behind an MIC, assuming there's not a Hannah down, or they have Pikachu available. So this deck did way better than it should have, and it might be a bit of Swiss cheese because I think it went into some Swiss games, and we're going to see them in a second. And people did not really know what they were up against, and it very quickly became apparent. And actually, I'll pull up the first game now. As like the one thing here is that I'm going to I'm going to try something on stream which I haven't tried before, which never goes wrong. Which is to play this via here. Is this going to work? So if I click on this, oh, yeah, that did work. Okay. So, let's pause this. So this was round 2. This is me versus Ossa, and uh, I wanted this video really shows kind of the ability which this deck has to just do very silly stuff. We kind of have I'm playing this at I think I'm playing this at like 1.2 speed or something, like it's going to go a bit faster. So we're going to start off here. I think I'm just going to set up the Tranquility home grid and play a hedge fund. It's behind an ablative. The ablative's actually really sick here because we've got 3 Elbagars, so we can de-res it if they do challenge it. But the runner just decides to sort of set up, gets down a patchwork, at this point, it's like, yeah, this is probably like Patchwork Crew, like Hashiko. That's what I'm assuming when I see Patchwork, um, which is fine as long as I can get like 2 ice on the server and they don't find a turtle like straight away. Quite a lot of my ice is quite low strength, um, like the Thimble Rig and the Tatabolas, for instance. So if they have a turtle with a counter, then I could be in trouble. I think they slapped down a leech here. We had to do a little bit of manual funkiness. Oh, they do. So they challenge the remote, which we're going to res the ablative. We don't mind doing that early. We can de-res it later, which is pretty good. We want to protect this tranquility. It's like a lot of money. And then they just run to get a Chico flip. They see the working prototype and they trash it, unsurprisingly. Um, hey Jeff, yeah, uh, it's been adapted and it's much better than it is. It's much better than it was. Yeah, it's like quite a monster now, I feel. So here we put the Managarm in the remote, drawing off the Tranquility, finding the Spin Doctor and putting that in as well. Unsure why I don't just res the Spin Doctor to draw more cards here. I'm leaving HQ like quite wide open with 2 agendas in it, which is a bit sketchy. I'm unsure about my play here. This was very early in the day, and I'm kind of just lucky here that the runner goes for a setup turn. I think they wanted to flip back, but if they run HQ here, then it's pretty bad for us. Like they're probably going to hit that Luminal. Um, and at this point, I should state that I am playing whilst also trying to keep Poppy entertained because I was meant to not be. I was meant to have someone else was meant to be looking after her, and they weren't available, and it all went a bit interesting. So here we draw into an ontological, which is this is a bit of a problem. We're kind of flooded, and we don't have a salvo testing yet, and that's all we want. Like all of these agendas are like not that great until we find a salvo testing. Um, you're not a red silver same. You don't have an astro trigger. Yeah, I guess. Um, it's bad, but it's okay. We've got a spin doctor. We can sort things out. What's interesting is that I don't think that I could have like fully opted for the draw here, which probably would have been wise. But instead, I go for a Luminal. I think I'm thinking here. I'm just gonna like score out this Luminal before they get set up, and then I can probably do some stuff next turn. So I overinstall the Spin Doctor, which is absolutely fine. We actually want a Spin Doctor in the bin because we've got ablative. We can get it back. We put the Tattoo Bowler on top of the server as well. And then I think here is the interesting bit because I install the other Spin Doctor, draw some cards with fully operational, and draw straight into a salvo testing. Now, at this point, I probably should have res this other Spin Doctor, drawn and discarded some of my hand. But I think that my my thinking here is that I now kind of have everything I need, or almost everything I need in my hand to win. So as long as they don't slam my hand or have like HQ multi-access, then I'm probably okay. Keep that in mind. Um, so here we've got a Luminal in the remote. It's protected by a Skunk Works and 2 fairly like small ice. Which is going to be a problem the minute that they get an Amakua down or they can crew through it all. We've got the leech down, so we know that the crew is coming. They run R&D here, which is our only like out. Like if they ran HQ here, we possibly lose this game, but we'll see. And then they set up a bit more, and they throw out. And this is like where I don't think I noticed this at the time. So they patchworked out this copulation to put down the daily casts. Which means that either I was doing a really good job of not giving away that there were agendas in hand, maybe that is the case. But if they'd like installed discopulation, gone R&D, run HQ, we just lose the game on the spot. We don't come back from that, which is absolutely hilarious. So they get a bit more set up. We're going to score out this Luminal. And then I think here, because our whole game plan is just we need to score out this salvo. We haven't drawn into a spin doctor. We haven't drawn into a Hollow Man, sorry. So like I think here the what I probably go for is just install double advance. Nicely, everything here is very cheap. The Tattoo Bola is very cheap. We might get a discount if they go through it, but they're probably more likely to trash it. We're assuming a leech is going to come down. But I think, bearing in mind what I can see now, I would have still gone for this line, which is just install double advance for salvo. They're not showing a way in yet, as much as like if they have a single if they can get down an Amakua. I'm also thinking here that they need quite a few clicks. They don't have like a ton of money. They need to install some way of getting through here. They're going to need to pay the Skunkworks tax, and that becomes very, very important. I'm reminded of Jeff realizing last week that Asa always has a few agendas in HQ. Yeah. I mean, Asa kind of wants agendas in HQ, right? The minute you score, you want to be wheeling back out in the remote. They are 2 clicks away from showing away. And yeah. So that I think that was partly my thinking. They need to spend at least 2 clicks and do 2 things, which is going to be a bit of money. It's going to be at least like probably 5 credits, and then they're still going to need to get past this Skunkworks. So we get down to crew, we get down to boomerang. So that's their 2 things. Okay, that cost them 4. They've boomeranged the outer ice, which is really good for us because that means that they're gonna go through it with the boomerang, which means we get to flip it. If they're boomeranged the inner ice, I guess they know that they can crew this ablative, so it does make sense. It probably is correct because if this was a gatekeeper or something, then that's really bad for them. But it's also good for us because we get to swap out here, and the money's pretty important. We'll put a Finberg there. It's not going to do very much against this deck, but if we can just score out this salvo, then we're absolutely fine. I did consider. No, I couldn't do anything. So what I could have done is res the Spin Doctor to see if I could like draw something to install in the remote to like hide the salvo testing. But I did a little bit of maths. And I realized that by the time the runners got through, they've got to spend 2 on the crew to do the trashing. I'm going to res this Skunkworks, and they're going to have 6 credits and 1 click. And they are probably currently thinking that this is an Ikawa. I put a lot of faith into gambling that they just assumed that this was Reg Asa. We haven't seen anything which suggests it's not Reg Asa here. And this looks so much like an Ikawa. Otherwise, why am I double advancing? Like, what's going on here if this isn't an Ikawa? And so I think that this Skunkworks is going to protect this based on the fact that they won't want to pay 5 to see an Ikawa that they can't steal. And that is exactly what happens. And this is where like definitely the Swiss cheese comes in, because if this was in the top cut, it's not happening, is it? Like it's obviously not an Ikawa. They can read the deck list. They know it's not in there. But here, runner thinks like has a good think about this. Do I want to spend 5 credits on what is probably an Ikawa? They don't. So we get triple advance, score a salvo. Runner is gutted because I mean, who would have seen that coming? And now we are really glad of what looked like a really bad draw to start with, because we suddenly have everything we need to win in hand. And again, unless there's like some serious HQ pressure, then we're going to be like, okay. So at this point, the Corp plays a sheer gamble, goes to clear out this server, and we can res here because we can score out. We can play the entire rest of the game. Like if we hold on to this Tranquility home grid, we can play the rest of this game on 0 credits, which is just hilarious. Um, like the 2 credits which we get from the install is all we need to score the bifurcation that's in hand, and then also the ontological. We lose the ontological. Bit of a shame. They run again. I res into another ontological. So I still have the potential win in hand. But like I just don't want, like, this is actually like great for me now. Like it's a 1 in 5 for them to actually win. I can also de-res the spin doctor, so I can draw more next turn. So if they do manage to snipe this ontological, then maybe I can draw and find the third one or just another bifurcation. Yeah, I didn't save the replay, so I can't go back and look at their hand, but it'd be really interesting to see what their hand was when they pitched the copulation. Because it would have been like really, really sick. Wenjong, yeah, playing Asa for a while made me realize how much my court play would improve if I think more cleverly about what does my action look like means runner's eyes. Yeah. And I think at this point I look in, like, here we go. Oh, can we go back a tiny bit? So at this point I look in the heap myself, because I've kind of been concentrating on my game and also trying to deal with a 4-year-old. And so like my attention's been slightly divided, and I hadn't noticed. I want to try and pause it here. So here you can just about see it here. There's not one copulation in the bin. There are 2 copulations in the bin. There are, like, we should have lost this game. I don't know when the other one went. It must have got it. It was probably the turn where they it must have been the turn where they like installed the boomerang, installed the crew. They must have pitched a second one for like patchwork, but like absolutely wild. We had absolutely no chance winning, and all I can assume is that we were putting enough pressure on in this remote to keep them from thinking that HQ was worth like dealing with, which like usually would be correct, right? But yeah, kind of a wild realization at that point. I'm also now like slightly more scared about this single ontological, but with 2 copulations out, I'm much less bothered about it. Here I can res to pad out a hand, which leaves us with like a 1 in 7, and then turn 7 we're gonna score out this ontological. We've literally scored an agenda every single turn, 4 turns in a row. Absolutely wild. And yeah, this game went 11 minutes. Wenjong, if you catch some soccer streams, he will intentionally pretend to contemplate a draw. He's very sure about it. Yeah. He's very good at the mind games. So that was like me thinking, oh, I've brought my jank deck and maybe it can do something. I had a round 1 loss, so I was like already like, maybe this ain't going so well. Round 3, I played against Cody and got absolutely wiped. His 419 destroyed me, especially that game. The second game we played was a bit more balanced. I'm not going to show that video because you can go and watch it on Cody's side. Watch it from his side. Watch him watch how badly I play it as well. It's pretty bad. I really overextend at one point. And the link to his video is in my show notes. So you can go and see that there. But then we can jump to round 4. And also at this point now, like I've lost 2 games. We've just gone into the break. I'm like 1 loss, 2 wins, 1 loss. And we've gone into the break, and I'm pretty sure like I'm mostly out of contention now. It's like a big tournament. You need 6-2 to be like guaranteed. There's going to be like some 5-3s that get through. But I know now that I've kind of like the oh wait a second, I don't want that. The pressure's off, which is quite nice. Like I'm just playing for fun at this point. So next up, round 4. It's against what's this one? It's against PE. Do we want to watch a game against PE? It does go fine, but it's kind of like it's a bit lackluster. So instead, I think we'll jump to round 5, where I play against Alex. Alex is on R plus, which is like quite scary for me because a lot of my econ is based around ASOPs now, and so if Alex has a way of landing tags on me, and R plus is pretty good at landing tags, then I'm gonna lose like a lot of my econ because it's like the whole engine is ASOPs and UAV, and it doesn't need both of those down, but it needs at least one of them down, and I could lose them to being trashed at any point, which is kind of scary. So I'm unsure of the best way of playing this, but I also don't know what brew Alex is on here at all. I'm like, is this going to be assets? Is it going to be some kind of end of the line kill plan? Unsure. But Alex starts off with a spin doctor. I forgot to check whether he mulliganed or not. I think he actually kept. I've got prognostic in hand and a trick shot, so I'm just going to send it because the chance of me pulling something really sick here is great. This is scary. So I see fly on the wall into public trail. So the whole like, oh, if he can tag me on my turn, then I might be in trouble is like, well, he can tag me on my turn. There's going to be ways. And a public trail, I'm going to need a lot of money here. So I think about this and I decide that the best thing to do here is going to be to spend these trick shot credits installing the coalescence from hand to get the money off it, which is what I do here because I need I think I actually used the Muse. I can't remember. Unfortunately, if I'd drawn one first, then I could have used the I think there's a coalescence on the top of the prognostic. No, I just stick down the coalescence. That's fine. And then I've got the money to trash the spin doctor if I want to. And I think I get to. And here I decide to trash it. I'm like, if Alex is on public trail, then he's probably not on Oppo. So I think that I'm okay. So he plays the public trail, which we've seen. That's fine. I've got 8 credits. I can pay the 8. Not a problem at all. Alex Alex gives me some chat and then plays a second public trail. And I just assume I'm dead here. I'm like, I have 2 cards in hand. There's no way I can clear this tag. And he can... I think he'd need to take credits to be able to play an end of the line. Yes. So he couldn't like necessarily draw into it, but he doesn't. He's on a much spicier build and he trust ops out an archer. Which I was like, okay. I mean, firstly, I'm happy that I'm not dead Um, but now I know that he's on Fly on the Wall and Trust Operation, which means that my resources are even riskier. Like here, I'm gonna make a run because I want to get like I want to install a Trojan. Um, I want to see what's on the top of my deck with a prognostic, and there's two public trails in the bin, so there's no chance he's got a third one in hand and is able to do anything with it. Right? Right. Like, I mean, that would be like kind of insane if not. But I did like double check the bin. But now I know that there's like Simmel chips coming up. Um, we've got Hush, which is going to be potentially really good. Like we're R plus, we're expecting, um, like pings and things. This is why I love prognostic Q loops so much. Like knowing what I'm about to draw into, and the fact that I know that I've got an Aesops coming up. I can like plan out my whole next turn around the fact that I'm about to draw into an Aesops. Um, I think I work out that I don't quite have the clicks to like get to enough credits, install the Muse, get the Coalescence, and draw into the Aesops. So I think I kind of take just a turn to set up a little bit here. Oh, I had a creative commission on top as well. Yeah, so I knew that was coming, which means that I can like play this turn a little bit slower, get some more money up. I'm also like, now that there's another Spin Doctor down, I'm a bit scared about making successful runs because um, there is a good chance um, that he's gonna like pull back the public trails, and because of that, I don't play the Aesops here. So I'm very careful not to play the Aesops because I don't want him to get massive value. There's an Archer in the bin, so if he has a single public trail and a trust operation, then I not only lose my Aesops that turn, but he gets a free Archer as well, which would be like pretty brutal. Uh, so this turn we can set up a little bit more. Um, we can now get the Aesops down, but I definitely consider whether I should or not. Um, I think I kind of think for quite a while about if there's a way which this card in server 1 or server 4, sorry, could like give me a tag, and I decide that it can't, so I'm okay to like get my Aesops down this turn. I also like I really want to do this on this turn. Like you're gonna see there's a really sketch point. If there's ever two cards in the server, then I know that he's got the option of like Hollow Man plus Fly on the Wall into Trust Operation, or maybe something else. I think there is a little bit of a tag punishment in here. So this turn I'm now scared because there's two cards. So I might well end up getting tagged here. So I have to consider whether it's correct to just sell the Coalescence or whether I should actually be selling the Muse so that I can get the Muse into the bin. Because I don't have a Muse in the bin right now. So this was actually quite an interesting like thinking point. If I sell the Muse, I can install the Symbol chip, and then I can probably, hopefully, get into this server next turn. I decide not to, and I feel okay about that because I draw into a second Aesops. So here I can kind of take it a bit easier. I know that I'm probably going to get like trust stopped here. I'm going to run just so that I can see the top cards. I'm not going to make a successful run. Um, I just want to see, and I didn't have anything much better to do on that turn other than clicking for credits. But it's really important for me to know what's coming up, so that if I need to run first click, I know what I can and can't deal with. Alex draws. It's good for me. Means that I'm not getting like shut down this turn. and then he ices up everywhere to stop me getting prognostic value, which is really mean. I know that there's a symbol chip on the top, so I can install that off the prognostic. Uh, and now I have 2 symbol chips and a muse in the bin, which means I'm like pretty safe to get in to any server. But I am also poor. Um, so like I can run server 4 here. I quite confidently run server 4 here. But I'm then worried about getting public trailed because that is uh that is like the scary thing right now. Server 4 it looks quite scary, but he didn't score. He didn't do anything with it last turn. And actually, I think if we bear in mind, I think this turns out to be an agenda and a Hollow Man, and I think he had a chance to just manually trash the Aesops, and he could have gone for that, and he didn't. But that's fine. Um, so we're just gonna like money up a little bit more. We're gonna get down the lily pad. Um, we're like desperately holding on to this other Aesops in hand. So because we're kind of assuming that at some point we're gonna lose this first Aesops. Alex draws here, which turns out that he's probably looking for tag punishment. Um, or he's just looking for more ice. He finds some. Um, ices up R&D as well. He's got like he's protecting against trick shot nicely, making everything like look pretty scary. I think we're now back to the point where we don't have a muse in the bin, which actually makes running like a little sketchy. But we do have a hush, which is quite nice. And we're probably gonna. I can't remember if I make a run here. Again, I'm really scared about public trial. Um, like I don't have 8 cards to pitch very often in this deck. Here we draw into like our second trick shot, and I have to think about whether this is the right time to trick shot. Um, what the reason that I think I don't is that I'm actually assuming that this card on R&D is a ping, which is fine in terms of the fact that we've got Hush. We can deal with the on res effect, but we don't have a way of pulling a propeller right now. So if it is a ping, we're not going to be getting through it. Um, so actually, the second draw is a bit awkward. Um, the ordering's like slightly off as well in terms of the fact that I installed the E curve, then I drew a DZMZ. Otherwise, I'd have probably gone like DZMZ install the Unity, because Unity is quite good. I'm assuming that there's virtual service agents in here, which I can deal with Hush. Um, but I'm also worried about things like Mester Chespo and potentially even piranhas. Like trust stopping a piranhas out is like pretty good. Here we run, and I think we see the propeller somewhere. So we're only making a run because I want to hold on to the um I want to hold on to the trick shot for when I know that I can land it. The propeller is the second card down, so we don't actually have the ability to go through, nor do we really want to, because we'd much rather install the propeller on the corpse turn, drawing a card. But here we see the flying a wall get scored with a Hollow Man, with a click left. Uh, we get a second Archer on R&D. This, I think Alex says afterwards that this might have been an overextension on R&D. Like it makes R&D just nigh on impossible for us to run, even with like a very good breaker suite. But equally, this Archer probably should have been on the remote. Like you need the remote to be safe as well. On the corpse turn, we install the propeller, which draws a card. Um, which is just like obviously we're doing that off prognostic Q loop. That keeps our engine going. Prognostic Q loop is kind of like you can draw 4 cards a turn if your deck lines up well, because you kind of draw and install a card, and then you draw another card because of lily pad, and it just goes so well if you can hit programs enough of a time. And I've got a lot of programs in here. I'm just going to keep setting up because at the moment Alex is poor. Um, he makes a really nice play here of moving the Hollow Man onto R&D, which is the way more protected server. So I quite like that. Again, if this Archer was on the remote, then maybe he wouldn't need to do that. And this kind of uh, works out well if we want to go and trash this using a trick shot. But what's quite scary is now like any card in the remote could be a tomorrow's headline. It could be the third fly on the wall. It could be an orbital. I don't know what agendas he's on at the moment, so we're kind of really unsure about what this is going to be. And this is where it starts to get particularly nerve wracking because I don't have loads of money. I can't run R&D particularly successfully, and I'm only on 1 point, which means like trying to land a deep dive at this point is probably not going to happen, or it's not going to win me the game. And I really need to kind of win off that deep dive, because I think whatever happens the turn after the deep dive, I'm going to either be tagged or I'm going to have very little money, and I'm going to get like public trailed, and bad stuff is going to happen. So I've got to feel like I have enough money to run, um, and not just lose after. It's probably worth mentioning that the turn before, Alex rezzed this ping, even though it had a hush on it, and it only really stopped me getting in for a single. Um, and I probably wasn't going to go in anyway. I was just trying to force the res. So here we manually move the hush across using the click ability onto the VSA. And again, this is probably an incorrect res, because this costs us 1 credit, because the hush is on it. And if this ice was face down, then it's actually a lot scarier, and it then means that we know where the hush should and shouldn't be. I think at this point there's a part of me which considers, as Alex hasn't like res this middle ice, I consider simul chipping a muse to move the hush onto the unres ping, but I decide that I can probably just eat a tag if it really comes to it, and I prefer to have my simul chip to sort of get a Fasalem if I needed it. We steal a sender message, which Alex could have scored out next turn if um if I hadn't run. He would have had enough money to just move the Hollow Man over, score it out. Then it's behind a Hydra. Feels okay. Um, but now I'm like a bit scared because Oppo's online. Um, Alex is poor, but I'm trying to work out how I just don't lose now. 4 points feels like I've got enough that I can go for a deep dive. So I just need to figure out what this HQ ice is and what the archives ice is. Um, Unfortunately, anything that is put in this remote is really scary, because I don't have the money to go and trash this Hollow Man. So I still don't know. I also don't know. I don't know that Alex isn't on other tag punishment. Um, it. I think there is a single copy of the like put 2 cards back into your deck one, um, which which is nice. So here, I draw a Pikachu. This means that I now feel pretty confident that I can like win off a deep dive. So I just need to have enough money to run all three servers. R&D is helped by the trick shot. That's going to get me through like one of the archers. Um, the other archer costs 4 + 2 to host the Eco on it, which is not a huge amount. And I'll even get 2 credits to trash the Hollow Man once it's a successful run. But I want to find out what these other ice are first. I see a Slap Vandal on the top of the deck. I think I don't draw here because I actually want to. Oh, I do draw it. Okay, fine. I was going to say I probably want to have that available, but maybe I didn't see what the second card down was. Hey, not Yessie. How you doing? Um, I'm just looking through a little bit of footage from my games on Saturday. Um, so at this point, I slap down the Pikachu, and then I muse out like I install a muse using a symbol chip to trash the hush to reinstall the hush, putting it on the VSA. Uh, it's keeping Alex's credits down. It's stopping me getting tagged. It means that I can run back through this VSA to pick up the Pikachu, which is really really nice. And I'm pretty sure I do that here. Um, we see a trust operation, which is scary because that means that server 4 could be anything like could be pretty bad for us. Um, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go back, pick up the Pikachu, and then spend my last clicks either clicking for credits or installing the Pikachu somewhere. This the semi-finals game was not oh, the end of it was streamed, right? Um, like uh, yeah, but it was the worst game of Netrunner I've played for a long time, unfortunately. We see another trust stop. It actually turns out that there are 2 trust stops in HQ at this point. There's also 2 agendas. There's 2 sender messages in HQ. Alex is sitting there sweating while I'm like just poking HQ, missing the agendas. And now I have to work out what to do um with my last couple of clicks. Oh, I've just realised not yet. You weren't actually talking about. I was talking about the my game versus Santa, which like that was the worst game. The game I played against Cody, that second one, I was okay with how I played that because it's a terrible matchup for me, and so I did okay based on that. I just clicked for some credits. I think I don't want to get public trailed, although if I do get public trailed, I can't really afford to spend the 8 credits. So I don't know, like if Alex threw a public trail at me here, I don't know. I guess I have to take it. Alex jams second card in server 4. Now that's really scary. And I think at this point, I just decide, well, now is the time where I'm either going to lose or be really put back next turn, or so I probably just have to win this turn. And I think I can get in it everywhere. I've got 14 credits. I can definitely get in R&D. R&D cost me about 6 real credits because of the trick shot money. And there's always a chance that I just win off the trick shot as well. Like we know that there's sender messages in here. And with the ice sweep, that like makes a ton of sense. Like the hydras and especially the archers. But what I now work out is that I'm actually slightly too poor to land this deep dive. I think I hadn't quite mapped it out, and I get really lucky and see a degree mill off the top for the win. But I'm actually short at least a credit, especially if I wanted to install. So the Pikachu I get for free if I want to put that down, which is fine. But to get into archives, I have to install them probably depending on what it is. Obviously, maybe I can just run through it. But if not, then I need to install the Muse from my hand plus something. The Muse from my hand is going to cost me 1 credit. Whatever I install is probably going to cost me 1 credit. And if it's something like an Unsmiling Serevna, I I can't let that fire because I'm going to lose the deep dive. So I actually I was a credit short. I probably did have to go for this play right now, and I just had to assume that I could get into archives and that I wouldn't just die when I was doing that. But I was very close to actually being like just a couple of credits short of actually having the money to play the deep dive. Maybe like installing the Pikachu for free and clicking for a couple of credits would have been like clicking for a credit before playing the deep dive might have been an option, hoping that I find a 5-3. Um, it turns out that the card which Alex jammed in the remote like the turn ago was second Hollow Man. And he was just trying to bait me into the server. But it could have been a send a message. He could have scored it out. Although then he'd have been like really poor. And then after probably I guess he'd have res this ice for free. So that was game 2. No, that was game 4 or 5. I think 5 because game 4 was PE. We didn't watch that. This one was a really wild deck. I almost I almost like I almost don't want to show this. Like this deck, I was playing against Arisana and didn't really know what to expect. Um, and I got something very unexpected. It was like pretty cool. We start off with oh, I actually missed what I put in the remote there. What did I put in the remote? It was the I had like Rashida, Tranquility, and the Thimble Rig all in my opening hand. Now I'm fully aware that Arasana can probably get in here. Um, but also this looks a little bit like it could be a Skunk Works, and so I'm quite happy to sort of force an option out of Arasana. And I don't think like maybe with trick shot credits they'd have enough to like get in and trash everything, which is a risk, but I didn't really have a better play either. Um, so I think that this is like fine. And like I'm not getting a Rashida off turn 2 because by then they're all good. So they're on Sure Gamble and Creative, so they've got some like good classic money. And I think here we just go for this like super aggressive push because why wouldn't we? We can install the salvo. We've got money from Tranquility. We can install the Hollow Man. Um, we can put a Tattoo Bowler over the top of it, which is like the perfect ice to deal with a lot of Trojans. And now we have like one um one barrier, one code gate, which is like nice little rainbow of ice. We can res everything because it's incredibly cheap. And as much as like Arisana probably could get in here, like it would require one hell of a good hand. Maybe like just Muse, Simulchip, and then like an Overclock or something. Maybe even just run. Like you might be able to. Um, but they go for like Muse into SMC and then player creative. again, this is like the Swiss cheese level of this deck doing its thing, because why would you expect that to, like, you wouldn't expect that the, like, if I score out here, what's the worst that could happen? It turns out that salvo testing is the worst that can happen, at least for the run. It's very good for me. We get a propeller down, so our Tatibola looks a bit worse, but that's absolutely fine. We're quite happy to like swap that for something else. And they've got this like quite cool rig, like everything's going to be very efficient for them to break. They're going to go and try and clear this Tatibola, which makes sense. Clear the Hollow Man, which makes sense. Um, but they decide uh, not to run through, not giving us the money or the Asa trigger, which is a real shame because we would have put this Spin Doctor on top of the Tranquility and gained a ton of money. I say a ton. Some money is more correct. So I draw a fully op and I possibly install the second. Oh, I don't install. I was going to say, like, I wonder if just installing the second Hollow Man is correct there, but it might not be. So they're quite content to let us hold on to this Hollow Man for now, which makes sense because we can't really use it to fast advance out next turn. Like, we're too poor. This hedge fund is going to help. Um, and they ditch Parisia. We draw a second Tatubola, which is really nice because that means that like we can make the remote. We can make money off them constantly running this remote. If we can, force something. Um, I put it on R&D, which actually makes a lot of sense. Right now, the entire win is in R&D. HQ is safe. They weren't tempted to run the remote last turn, so we don't think they're going to do it this turn. And they get down their Aesop's engine. They've got Kobe, which is cool. And we draw a Skunkworks, which is like perfect. It actually makes the remote a real pain, and we can use it to bake them into the remote as well. Unfortunately, like they're poor, but they are going to have four credits at the start of next turn. So we think they're still probably going to try and run this. They might have an overclock or something along those lines, um, or be able to like credit, gamble, run, something like that. We draw off a Tranquility home grid and draw into Nico, which is absolutely like perfect. It makes the remote look really scary right now as well. Um, like this could be Hendrix, and there's a good question of why am I not on Hendrix, but I think it's just card slots. They run for our tattoo. We can swap it. I think we're gonna. What do we put out here? Trying to work out what I would. I think I probably put down the brand. No, I don't. I installed the ablative barrier. Interesting, but it kind of makes sense. And I install the Hollow Man using the Asa trigger, drawing a card, because all I'm interested in now is drawing as fast as I can to find the bifurcations and the ontologicals. I just want to. I've done the hard bit. I've scored my salvo testing. I just need to find. I just need to find the win. I also want to find it before they get too many simul chips down because they could well be on clock. We're gonna force them to spend their clicks on this Skunk Works. It leaves them with 2 credits, which is only enough to trash a single Hollow Man or the Nico. They see the Nico first, they leave it, assuming that they're going to need to deal with the Hollow Man. They see a second Hollow Man, it's pretty bad. And so they decide to trash none of them, which kind of makes sense. We res the Nico because it's credit positive by 1 credit, but we're immediately going to trash it. Um, to just score out this bifurcation, I think. Oh, we score it in a new remote. That's interesting. I guess like just keeping the. That's interesting. Um, I guess I wanted to keep the Nico just ticking here, and the remote's actually quite annoying for them to get into. So that does make sense, as much as we like lost out on our tranquility grid value. Um, so they're kind of aesopsing away, but they're quite poor, which means that our like small ice is just enough to keep them out in the moment. They've got this saucy, which they're bouncing back and forward and making us not want to res stuff, which is actually pretty cool. I've been looking at saucy in Arasana, um, because like maybe it's, I mean, like it is a Trojan, um, and I think it's pretty cool. Um, it's just a slots issue, but it's kind of potentially pretty good. They break this drafter for 2 credits. Don't see anything off the top, so that's fine. I've just realised the other reason that I'm probably keeping this Nico going is that I want the card draw off it in a second. Um, like we're gonna get card draw very very soon, and drawing an extra card is going to be really important. I draw a hedge fund, which is like the absolute perfect card here because I don't want to draw into agendas. I want to trash this piece of ice which has got a saucy on it so that they can't get um, value off their urban art vernissage. They don't have any way of like recurring it at the moment. There's no symbol chip down, and I can like just ice up R&D really strongly. I'm able to fast advance out the entirety of the rest of my deck apart from the salvo testings right now. So really, I just want to like draw into agendas at the start of my turn, and I'm going to draw 2 cards next turn. So I'm like reasonably likely to either draw an agenda or drawing uh, a fully operational is pretty good here. And something that I didn't point out a turn before, I moved the Hollow Man across. This was just so that the Hollow Men were on 2 different servers in case they had a way of suddenly like boosting up a load of money and like running the server, or they, I don't know, install a light the fire or something and go try to destroy the whole server. One of them's safe, and it also gives me much better fully op value if I happen to draw a fully op. I'm going to res a gatekeeper here, and I think they let this fire, and I think that might be quite a big mistake. As much as it would cost them, like they can use these Kobe credits, and then it will still cost them like all of their money. I think letting me draw in this circumstance is terrifying, and we draw into a bifurcation, which is exactly what we want. We get our Nico trigger, draws an extra card. I think we do move our Hollow Man back now, so we don't have to like res the other one. Because do I even Hollow Man this out? I might do so that I have an extra click left. I'm getting quite greedy with this ice install, I think. I think there's also a chance what I could have done. Oh no, okay. So what I'm thinking here is whether I should, because what I could have done is like advanced with the Hollow Man, installed the spin, res the spin, de-res the spin with the Elvagar, um, and then like had additional draw. But I decided that they didn't want to break this gatekeeper last turn, and that they might not want to break it again if it was 6 strength. So I went for de-resing the gatekeeper. I'm assuming that the remote is good enough, and also we kind of don't need it. I can just let them into HQ here. If they find the spin doctor, then that's like mildly upsetting, but I think there's an ablative barrier on board somewhere, so we don't really care if they trash a spin doctor. They see a right suppression, which is quite funny. It makes them not want to trash anything. Um, and now they're going back into HQ, and we're going to rest this gatekeeper again because it might just draw us the win. I think they break it this time. Oh, okay, yeah. So they go through it with a Salem, which actually only costs them. I guess they retain the Takobi counters, which is something. Here I res the tattoo, um, which is somewhat questionable. I'm not sure if I should or need to do this. It gets them a Takobi charge, and it potentially gives them, like, if they had a Hush in hand. Oh no, I guess they've already for Salem, so like I'm safe from Hush. And actually, I found out after this game that um they're not on Hush. Hey, Holtz, yeah, this is the deck which I played at Summer Showdown. This is one of the games from Summer Showdown. I'll pull it up on screen again in a second. Um, but yeah, it was basically plan is part one of the plan is score a 5-3, and then we go from there. So here there's like three ontologicals which we can draw, which win us the game. So I think I just install. That's interesting. I install it in server 2 along with a Tranquility home grid. Kind of rude. Um, that gives me like additional draw next turn. We're gonna install the Nico, drawing more cards, drawing into 2 salvo testings. A little scary. Um, so I assume I just draw here and pitch a salvo testing. And if I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, fine. Like the fact that the runner is poor. This is an interesting. I've just noticed that. That's an interesting pop of stone chip. I think I would have sold that stone chip to Aesop's because I feel like 3 credits in that circumstance is better than 2 draw. Uh, or you might even just sell the Takobi. Yeah, wild. Or oh yeah, selling the Salem was they probably just missed that trigger. They missed the fact that Salem was on board. Um, so here they run archives, which makes sense. We're gonna recover the salvo testing, and we recover the other spin, which is interesting because I might have left that in case they ran into an ablative barrier. I say I might have. I didn't. It was me that did it. Um, here we can resist Nico, and then I think we're just gonna we draw a luminal, so we can install the luminal. We actually like misclick and take a credit or something, and the opponent is nice enough um, to let us. I don't know how I misclicked this, but yeah, I took a credit. This was meant to be obviously Hollow Man advanced, but I do that. Game plan: score 3-pointer, question mark, profit. Yeah, pretty much question mark, then win. Um, I can't FA the salvo testing. I can never advance the salvo testing. Oh, with the double Hollow Man. No, no, you can't. You can FA a 4-2 with double Hollow Man because each one will only ever put 2 counters on it. Yeah, so it's yeah, like I could have jammed the salvo testing in server 1, assuming that the opponent wouldn't be able to get in, which might well have been true. Um, we so we trash a window. So this deck is on like window and saucy, which makes like a ton of sense in if you're going to be on saucy, and why not? You're Arizona. Uh, and then find out that they're playing like they never got a chance to install it, nor had the money to use it, but they're on Rubicon Switch, which is absolutely hilarious. Very very evil potential plan. Here we go. They whack, terrifying. Um, Luckily they didn't really have the money to use it, and like I don't think they want to like all of our stuff is pretty cheap apart from the brands and to MIC, and we didn't have a cause to res it. You can fast advance a 5-3 with double hollow man in mirror morph, correct? um because they're separate actions. Okay, let's just pull up the deck lists for people who have only recently joined, and then I might show one or two other games. I'm going to try and put some other commentary. We could watch the game where I absolutely beef it against Santa. Like maybe that's worthwhile. Apart from anything for me to talk through, let me just quickly. Oh well, my window capture screen has disappeared. Is it this one? No, it's this one. So, if you didn't already see them, then this is my corp deck. Asa. It's got you have to score a salvo testing, and then the whole deck like does its thing. Um, Most of it's quite standard, apart from the agenda suite. And there's no other ways. Like someone, I think Andre pointed this out on stream. There's no other ways of landing core damage, but I don't think there's any other ways which are reliable enough compared to like if you score a salvo testing. Um, and you also, if you can't score the salvo testing, you kind of can't win. The agenda suite is very tricky. Um, as in, okay, if we could, like, the best way of explaining this is that I was playing against Essa in the Top Cut. First game of the Top Cut, I get to choose which sides. I either have to play against this horrible Earth station with 3 Chrysiums, which looks like an absolute nightmare to try and land a deep dive against, or I can play against Essa. And you'd think, like, well, obviously you play against Essa. Gypstad, if we had a bit more money, like Gypstad is cool, but Tranquil is so necessary in this deck. Um, but yeah, maybe I need to like look at Gypstad a bit more. Like we might if we like switch to regoliths or something, so that we can just like slam them for a bunch of money. Then maybe we've got like Gypstad cash. But either way, landing a core damage isn't the important bit. The important bit is kind of landing a core damage and also having 3 points. Because if we're playing against Essa, as we did in the first game of the cut, you'd think that it would be amazingly favored towards us. We have 3 ontological dependencies. Like our whole game plan is like give the runner some core damage. But Essa is really good at like challenging like 1 or 2 iced remotes very early, puts on like a ton of pressure, um, all of that. And the and our agendas are incredibly like none of them are defensive in any ways, so they're all very very squishy. And actually playing against Essa is kind of terrifying because this deck can lose very very quickly. um Whereas like if you're on Ikawas and things along those lines, then you're a little more resilient to that kind of thing because they can't just run Archives last click and scoop everything up. Maybe you can find a Spin Doctor next time. So actually against Essa is like quite a scary matchup. And even if you've got like a ton of core damage, or you've given a ton of core damage, or they've taken a ton of core damage, that requires you to then like find all the ontologicals before they find them, which like by the time they've got 3 or 4 core damage and they're super easy to score out, you've probably lost at least one into the bin, or they've nabbed one off HQ, or off of finality or something like that, or you've just chuskered one away. Um, so you've either got to find all 3 ontologicals, or you've got to do like 2 ontologicals and all 3 Elvegars, or you've got to do 2 ontologicals, an Elvegar, and fast advance out of Luminal. Like, all of those ways are quite tricky, especially when they've got a marrow down and you're sabotaging every time you're scoring. So you really still want, even against Essa, you still kind of need to score a salvo testing to win the game. Because you want that, like, you score a salvo testing, and not only have you turned on the deck's ability, but you're also incredibly close to then winning, because you only need either 2 or maybe 3 scores to win. Like, it might be Elvegar ontological, it might be Elvegar ontological, it might be like fast advanced luminal using a hollow man into an ontological. There's a lot of ways at that point, and like all of them are quite neat, and most of them don't require anything apart from just the agendas themselves. And this was my Arasana deck, kind of similar to Flippy Shit, but with a monkey wrench, because I'm memeing, and I'm on deep dive now, which is much better. Okay, I'm gonna pull up the game that I played versus Santa. This is the worst game I played all day, and we can all like appreciate like some truly bad decisions that I made. Properties. Let's find it here. So this was round 4 of the top cards. Not the game that's playing right now. That's in the background. Let me find it. Moon PD, Wenjong. Oh wait, there's. I wanna show round 2 of the top card first. I think, because this. Yeah. Okay. I need to show this game, because this is like a really interesting game. I might show this game sped up a little bit, because I spend a lot of this game thinking. Um, this is versus Snoobs, which is Sid from Cheltenham. Kind of quite local to me. He's been absolutely wrecking the tournament scene, even though he's like very, very new to the game. He's playing Kit. He's been doing really well with Kit, but has did pretty well at Old Shot with Mercury as well. Um, and he always seems to be playing a different corp. He's really like likes to try lots of different decks. He's playing PD today. He's playing just classic Moons PD. My game here is very interesting, because I just don't draw any econ. Um, I'm going to speed this up to like 135%. Oh, damn it, it started again. Sorry. Uh, just because I know how much time I spend thinking in this game, and it's going to go much faster now because of that. So I mulligan into this hand, which isn't awful, but it's not great. Okay, I've got a UAV and an Ika, so I can like get some value engine going. And Sid has what looks like a slow start, and this gatekeeper res on HQ tells me that HQ is flooded with agendas. I remember thinking that at this stage, and I clearly forget that like quite quickly, or just don't really act upon the fact that I've got that knowledge. So here I'm just going to stop him shuffling, because I think that's what he wants to do. I should have probably run R&D um, rather, and then put down the UAV, getting the slap vandal back. I think would have been absolutely fine. There's nothing that Sid could res here, and then he wouldn't have been able to play this. Uh, he wouldn't have been able to play the Your Digital Life. Here, server 1, I am 100% sure is a Tranquility home grid, and we can run it to get Arasana value, um, but I'm like so sure it is that I don't even run it with a credit. I'm gonna put down the uh, I'm gonna put down the environmental testing because it's the only real money that's in my hand, and I'm gonna run it installing the Eka. I don't have a credit here. I can't trash a Rashida if it's a Rashida, but I'm so sure this is a Tranquility grid, and I don't have the cash on me right now to deal with it. So I'm just gonna let it be, as much as I don't want to have to do that. But I kind of need to like scrape together some econ because I haven't drawn an ASOPs, I haven't drawn a coalescence, so it's kind of slightly awkward. Sid jams here. This looks like an agenda to me. So I'm going to pull back the Slap Vandal so that I have a potential chance of getting into server 1. We've got the um, environmental testing is on 1 counter, and we have 2 credits on the UAV to install stuff, which is not quite enough. Like, this is where I start having to think for a long time, because if I install the Muse, then I can install a Phasalem, for instance, but I'm then not going to have, like, the environmental testing isn't going to pop off. Um, so I need, if I want to run server 1, I need to have a credit and install another card so that when I run, I can install Muse um, into a Trojan and Steel. Now, the slight issue with that is that if it's something which I need to use the Slap Vandal to get through, then I can't go Muse into Slap Vandal. Like, if it's a barrier, the only thing that I can afford to install is Muse Phasalem or Muse Kayaban. Or Muse and another Eka, which doesn't make too much sense. So it's like a bit awkward. So I think what I do is I pre-install the Slap Vandal, I take a credit, and then I trick shot. Because now I've got trick shot money to install the Muse with. I'm also potentially forcing out some money in terms of Sid resing this R&D ice. I know that I have enough money to get through absolutely everything because I have Muse into either Propeller or Muse into Phasalem, and the environmental testing is going to pop off when it goes down. And then the Slap Vandal on server 1 means that I can almost definitely get into server 1. I also have the symbol chip down, so I can recycle the Muse if I need to. And if Sid doesn't res on R&D, then I should have enough money to not only get in, but also trash the Tranquility home grid. So this forces um, the ablative res, and I decided the best option here is just to let that go. I don't want to like do the Muse install here. What I failed to do is to use this trick shot money to install the Muse, which I maybe should have done anyway. Because it turns out to be a skunk works and I can't get in. So I was like mildly upset about that. But it's bought us a turn. We now know what's in here, and we now know that we can get this UAV to pop off this turn. Because we have our 2 credits from to install the Muse. Here, I think I go and fetch a Kayaban, installing the Muse from hand and going through. But I can't remember for sure, so we'll have to find out. Because either that or I might just actually install the Eco. I'll be interested to see what I do here because both are interesting. Okay, so I just install the Eco and then I can break one sub. I can click twice. I can pay 5 for the Skunk Works. I have enough money. Oh, interesting. Okay, so clearly my thought here was I had to install the Eco because I needed the money to even break the first sub, and I might as well have. I might as well. I want it there. But what I'm clearly also thinking is Sid is on 1 credit. What can he do next turn? Now, I guess technically credit seamless is like a line which I maybe should have played around. But knowing that I've got a propeller in hand, I think the course of action here is just to think that unless this is a Rashida, if Sid doesn't res this and pop a Rashida next turn, then I can go and get it next turn no matter what, because Sid isn't going to have enough money to res ice and deal with that. Possibly forgetting about the fact that he might get a Tranquility Homegrid like trigger, but we'll see. I can keep drawing here, and I do. But the problem now is that the only econ that I've got on board, so I've done the one environmental testing, which gave me like 9 credits, cost me 1 credit to install, so like gained 8. And I've got the UAV engine going, but I still haven't drawn a single coalescence. I obviously don't have an ASOPs. I mean, if I had an ASOPs, then this whole game, I feel like I would be absolutely running it over right now. Because I'd be like, I can run all of this ice. I can deep dive. I'll be absolutely fine. But as it is, I have to spend like a lot of money to get in here. I want to trash this Managarm on this run because otherwise Sid just jams next turn. At least this way, at the very worst, I can just triple click through the Bran or pay 1 and 2 clicks to get through the Bran and probably still get into the remote. So the remote's not safe until there's over a second piece of ice or another upgrade there. Um, but now I'm pretty destitute. I have 2 credits, no ASOPs. Um, I have UAV, which is credits to install, but it's not real credits at this point because I don't even like, because I haven't drawn a coalescence, I don't have a way of turning those credits into like actual money, which is a real big problem. Sid installs in the remote here. Um, this is like, to me, this is 100% not an agenda because I can definitely get in here. And it's really not that much for me to get in here. So this just feels like it must be like it's possibly another Skunk Works. It might be a Rashida, which I maybe should have gone and got. Um, but I get in for like 2 clicks and a credit, and I get to like UAV something in the same. I gain like a UAV credit. Hey, Minstrel, I was talking about your deck earlier. You took a version of Flippy Shit to first in Poland. I saw, like, excellent work. We're just running through some of my games from Saturday with my new version of the deck. So at this point, um, I draw into a hush, which feels pretty useless right now. Like I really want coalescence. I want a lily pad. I mean, lily pad's not great. I really want a coalescence or an ASOS. Is what I really want. I've got all of this money. which I can install stuff with. But firstly, like none of these things in hand cost much to install. I've just drawn into a Fasalan, which does not feel like a good draw right now. And I have an opening to potentially win at this point. I've got Fasalan, which means I can get through the Gatekeeper. I've got Slap Vandal, which means that I can get through the Ablative. And I have 2 Deep Dives in hand. I have Muse, which means that I can pull a Pikachu. So right now, I've got an avenue to just win. But I need money because I need to be able to pay 2 for the Gatekeeper. I need to be able to pay 1 for the Slap Vandal. And I need to be able to pay 2 credits for the Deep Dive plus 2 credits for the Ikawa that I kind of need to score to win. That I need to steal to win the game. So like I just need actual money at this point. And I think what I end up having to do is I install a Muse to pull a Coalescence because I've got like this whole install is free. Like this just gets me a little bit of money, and then I probably install the Eka and throw out the Muse. Um, or I make a yeah okay. I install the Eka during a run just so I can check archives at the same time. I might as well. Um, this also means that I now have the option to simul chip this coalescence back out for another 4 credits, which I'm like genuinely considering right now, because I just need money, like however it comes. In the remote, it turns out to be a sodding midnight, which I could have got in and stolen. Again, I'm not thinking back to turn 1, where I assumed that Sid was flooded, and if I had been, then I should have been like at least trying to get into HQ. Yeah, so Minstrel, the idea of like 3 slots over 1 is tricky, but I cut a few other things out of the deck to make the space, and I think it's a much better win con. I found Conduit to just not be quite correct when I was playing with it in Aldershot. But it could be. Anyway, Sid's now drawn a ton of cards and put a YDL back in his hand, which means that keep the whole like keeping him quite poor, which I'd been doing quite well. I have 1 turn left of doing. Now I have this massive, massive thing because I'm thinking about the fact that I've just remembered Sid was flooded, or I worked out that Sid was probably flooded. So, do I need to go and challenge HQ now? And my thinking is that I could muse for a compilation, run archives, and then run HQ, seeing 3 cards. And if I use the simul chip to install the Muse, I think I work out I have like just enough credits to do this, and steal an Ikawa, but it's like really tight. And if that misses, then I don't really have a way of getting back into the game. Um, so like this was a real thing, and so I think my main thing here is like let's just draw for 1 piece of econ and then I'll be able to do it. Or maybe I do it next turn. The problem with doing it next turn is that Sid's probably going to jam next turn. He'll have drawn agendas here. The correct thing for him to do is going to be to jam into the server, put another piece of ice there, maybe 2, maybe Skunk works. Yeah, Minstrel, I'll be posting the deck. I was gonna do it tonight before the stream, didn't have time. Might have to be tomorrow, but it will definitely be up very, very soon. So here I literally tanked for a long time, and luckily I'm we're not in any risk of time. Like Sid's on Moon's PD, like quite obviously. We both know that we've got plenty of time to play this game. I draw for econ, and I find this, which is kind of econ, um, but it's really awkward. I draw a trick shot, and I don't want money to run R&D right now. I want money to run HQ. Um, so the worst thing here is that I don't have much spare MU, so I don't have a really good way of using the money off the trick shot other than just to get into R&D. So I'm going to draw again and find something good to install, like a Q loop, for instance. I don't. I find a second Eka. Like, so now, like, my hand is just really horrible. Um, I also want to hold on to this deep dive potentially for next turn so that I can challenge the remote with it. But then I don't know what to do with all these cards in my hand. I kind of need to keep the Slap Vandal. I definitely want to keep at least one Eka. I'm going to need this for Salem to get into HQ on the turn where I want to deep dive. I possibly need the Muse to pull out a Pikachu at some point. It's really, really awkward. Um, like maybe just so also like there's a big part of me right now that's considering pre-installing the Pikachu, maybe like using um the trick shot to run R&D, like slap Vandal through, simul chip the Muse, get the Pikachu on HQ, but I don't want to show the Pikachu too early, and also both of these ice that are protecting HQ and R&D. If I put a Pikachu on them, then Sid probably will and probably should trash them. In the end here, I just decide that I want to use some of the cards in my hand, and I just go to try and like grab some points off R&D with this trick shot. I don't love the play. I get to trash a Rashida, which is okay, but I can't challenge the remote here. So the trick shot feels like a little bit dead, and I install the Eka just so because my only like real engine at the moment is UAV, so I need to always have like I could have returned the Slap Vandal, but for me to do the deep dive turn that I want to do, which is what I'm considering about my next turn, I need to be able to Arasana down with Salem to get into HQ. So what I'm thinking here is the idea is that I potentially set myself up to be able to deep dive next turn, but I still need a bit of money to do it because I've got the availability of Simulchip Muse to get myself a Pikachu. I can get into HQ using the Physalum, and I can get into R&D using the Slap Vandal. So I've got everything I need. I just don't have money. I don't have actual money. I don't have the money that I need to steal an Ichor. Unsurprisingly, Sid jams in the remote and puts another piece of ice there. And this is why, like, the trick shot last turn was probably a bad play. If I'd have held on to the trick shot, and in just like installed the slap vandal on the ablative, taken some credits, thrown out some cards maybe, then I could have played the trick shot here and got way more value off it. Because if I do it first click, then I can probably like definitely get into the remote. I probably have to click through the Bran, but I can steal anything other than an Ikoa, and I can actually use the trick shot credits a lot better than I did um, on my turn on the previous turn. So I just have to go back into the tank here because again, like I'm like very close to having the win, but I don't have enough money to land it, and I'm also very wary of the fact that if either Sid ices up centrals a little bit more, I'm gonna miss that window, and also he might just win like next turn. Could just win next turn, or not. Well, pretty much next turn. Like if this is off world, he'll be on at least 17 credits, and he can big deal, and I lose. So I think what I do here, I probably start by drawing, and I but we'll find out because I might just take credits because I do a little bit of maths and work out that I'm going to need 3 credits to get through the gatekeeper. I'm going to need 2 credits to get through the gatekeeper, 1 credit to get through the slap vandal. Yeah, so I draw another muse. Normally I'm like desperate for muses, and this is the one game where I'm just like I don't know what to do with all these muses. Simulchip is actually quite good here because it means that um, I can use some UAV credits to uh, like get a coalescence, and that's what I'm going to use it for here. I can't remember whether I do it using a muse, and that's probably incorrect because I could just install the Simulchip, run archives, installing an Eka, selling the Eka, and I probably should be doing that. But let's see what I do. I sell the muse at this point. Okay, for the money, install the Simulchip. I guess then there's still a muse in the bin, so that's fine. Then I'll probably just install the Eka, and now I'm up to 9 credits, which should be enough for me to deep dive next turn, including getting a Pikachu out, and also have enough money to steal and a click to steal Liquor, because I need 3 to break all the ice, which I can see at the moment, plus 2 credits for the deep dive, plus 2 credits for the Liquor. Now, unfortunately for us, this is a Rashida and not an agenda. Would have actually preferred that to be an agenda because it would mean anything other than a Luminor. As long as that's not a Luminor, then we'll be okay. But a Rashida means that Sid's going to draw into more ice, which means that he might ice up centrals. And we actually get kind of lucky, and Sid slightly misplays this. So there's a chance that he needs this second piece of ice, but there's a chance that with just next and a single piece of ice, it would be enough. I guess the problem is that with next down, next activation command, which makes all of the ice strength two strength more, then we can still get through the brand with a full propeller. So if we like sell our propeller to the Simulchip, we can still get in. And if we have access to Fasalem, which we do, Sid doesn't know that we do for sure. I mean, we can always Simulchip it from a bin, but using a muse. But then we wouldn't be able to reset our propeller. Then maybe you need the second piece of ice here as well because there's very little which is actually going to stop us getting in. But most importantly, I have to read next a bunch of times and check all of my cards. I have to check that Slap Vandal is an icebreaker, and it is. So it works on the ablative. I have to check that Fasalem doesn't break ice, which it doesn't because it bypasses. And I have to check that the next hasn't boosted the ablative to above what a Slap Vandal could handle. And I kind of knew that wasn't the case, but I was double checking all of my lines here because I was like, well, with this in mind, I think I can now go for this deep dive, which I've been like hoping to land for quite a while. I've got everything that I need. I know I can get into all of the servers. If this is exactly a Mavirus, then I'm a bit boned, but I'm also aware that these decks are not generally playing Mavirus because it doesn't work very well with Big Deal. And they don't tend to have the influence for it. I mean, I'm sure they could play it, but it's like the way that the Windows work with big deal means that it's not ideal. Um, but like this is like turn 9, and I've had to like the only reason I don't feel too bad about this is that I don't think there was any chance that this game was ever going to time. This is the most I've ever thought on had to think about a game as I've been playing it. I check archives first, just in case. Like, if this turns out to just be a spin doctor or something like that, I want to get that popped first. Make sure that agendas are in R&D before I run R&D. Here we can get in using the entangler. Have to trash the muse. I realize that this was a mistake in terms of the fact that I should have gone for the. In case this was potentially a virus, then I should be putting the Pikachu on R&D, I think. Um, because then I can guarantee that I get through and get the click back. But I also think I wanted to be able to run HQ twice to pull the Pikachu back to hand. And I think that's what I would have done if I hadn't stolen a Nickel from HQ. Um, because now I'm pretty confident that I can just land the deep dive and scoop up a single agenda and I'll be all right. But otherwise, I would have run back into HQ, paid another 2, got the Pikachu back into hand, and still had just enough money to land a deep dive. Here, I decided not to trash the spin doctor just in case the deep dive whiffs, but I do find a Midnight Freely off of it. This game was like so hard in terms of thinking, just because the draw was so weird in it, and I just thought I was going to lose at any point. Um, with that, it's actually a bit too late to look at Santa, the game that I played against Santa, but maybe I'll try and put all the Top Cut games up um, with some commentary another point. Um, let me know in the comments if you thought this was good. I'd say I've never tried this before on a WooTube. Obviously, normally we're playing games live. Is this interesting to people, or is it just better for me to like be jamming live games? I'm just kind of interested because I'm always interested in what people think, what people prefer me to do. Do you prefer me like building stuff live on stream? Do you prefer me to play decks which I've kind of been theory crafting in the background and then bring along? Um, or is like is this interesting to see like the way that games went out? I'm just never sure. Um, so yeah, hit me up in the comments and let me know like what you do and don't want me to do on YouTube, because I can always do that. Anyway, I'm gonna go to bed. If you're at Northern Regionals on Saturday, I'll see you then. And if not, if you're at Worlds, I won't see you there, but have fun at Worlds. It's gonna be great. And get your tickets to UK Nationals. Come to UK Nationals. It'll be a lot of fun. And with that, I'm off. Have a good week and